Hare Krishna, Brajmohan Prabhu. You may start now. We have all the participants in the waiting room. They're all here. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Nam Prabhu, Adipurush Prabhu. So we'll just begin with Jai Radha Madhav. Short Jai Radha Madhav. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शिष्य अभय चरण अरविंद भक्ति वेदांत गोस्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। समवेद गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे। There's some technical aspect. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 12, the dynasty of Kusha, the son of Lord Ramachandra. So, is the text legible, or should I increase the font? Is this okay? Is the font size okay? Or should I increase the font? Can someone? Maybe I should just.
Yes, Prabhu, the sound or the font seems to be okay.
Okay. So we're reading today from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 12, the descendants of Kusha, the son of Lord Ramachandra. We'll take the first verse. Shri Shuka Uvacha Kushasya Chatitistasman Nishadas Tatsuto Nabaha Pundariko Tatputra Kshema Dhanva Bhavattata. Shri Shuka Uvacha, Shri Shukadeva Goswami said, Kushasya of Kusha, the son of Lord Ramachandra, Cha also Atidhi, Tasmat from him, Nishada, Tatsutah his son Nabha, Pundarika, Ata thereafter, Tat Putra, his son, Kshemadhanva, Abhavad became Tatah thereafter. Translation: Shukadeva Goswami said, the son of Ramachandra was Kusha, the son of Kusha was Atiti, the son of Atiti was Nishadha, and the son of Nishadha was Nabha. And the son of Nabha was Pundarika, and from Pundarika came a son named Kshemadhanva. There's no purport to this, and we are going to read through all the verses that are there in this chapter. Devanikas-tato niha pariyatro tatatsuta tato bhalastalastasmad vajranabhorkasambhavaha. So we'll just read the translation. The son of Kshemadhanva was Devanika. Devanika's son was Aniha. Aniha's son was Pariyatra, and Pariyatra's son was Bhalastala. The son of Bhalastala was Vajranabha, who was said to have been born from the effulgence of sun god. Next, verses 3 and 4. Saganastatssutastasma vidritishta bhavat sutaha tato hiranyabhut yogacharyastu jaimine shishya kaushalya adhyatmam yajnavalkyo adhyagatyataha yogam mahodayam rishir hridaya granti vedakam. Translation: the son of Vajranabha was Sagana, and his son was Vidriti. The son of Vidriti was Hiranyanabha, who became a disciple of Jaimini and became a great acharya of mystic yoga. It is from Hiranyanabha that the great saint Yajnavalkya learned the highly elevated system of mystic yoga known as Adhyatma Yoga, which can loosen the knots of material attachment in the heart. Verse 5. Pushpo hiranyanaಭಸ್ಯ ಧ್ರುವಸಂಧಿಸ್ತತೋ ಭವತ್ ಸುದರ್ಶನೋ ಅಥಾಗ್ನಿವರ್ಣ ಶೀಘ್ರಸ್ತಸ್ಯ ಮರುಸ್ತತ್ಸುತಃ. The son of Hiranyanaabha was Pushpa, and the son of Pushpa was Dhruvasandhi. The son of Dhruvasandhi was Sudarshana, whose son was Agnivarna. The son of Agnivarna was named Shigra, and his son was Maru. Just for all the devotees' information, that there are 16 verses in this chapter, and today we are going to read through all the 16 verses and then discuss few points from this chapter. Okay, so please bear with the number of verses that usually are not. There are not so many verses that we discuss in one chapter or in one class, but today is this chapter is unique that it doesn't have purports almost till the end. Stosavaste yoga siddha kalapa gramamastitha kalerante suryavamsham nashtam bhavayita punaha. Having achieved perfection in the power of mystic yoga, Maru still lives in a place known as Kalapa Grama. At the end of Kali Yuga, he will revive the lost Surya dynasty by begetting a son. Purport: at least 5,000 years ago, Srila Shukadeva Goswami ascertained the existence of Maru in the Kalapa Grama and said that Maru, having achieved a Yoga Siddha body, would continue to exist till the end of Kali Yuga, which is calculated to continue for 432,000 years. Such is the perfection of mystic power. By controlling the breath, the perfect yogi can continue his life for as long as he likes. Sometimes we hear from the Vedic literature that some personalities from the Vedic age, such as Vyasadeva and Ashwatthama, are still living. Here we understand that Maru is also still living. We are sometimes surprised that a mortal body can live for such a long time. The explanation of this longevity is given here by the word Yoga Siddha. If one becomes perfect in the practice of yoga, he can live as long as he likes. The demonstration of some trifling Yoga Siddha does not constitute perfection. Here is a factual example of perfection. A yoga siddha can live as long as he likes. Verse 7. Tasmad prasushrutastasya sandhistasyaप्यमर्शनः mahaswam sutastasmad vishwabhahurajayatah. From Maru was born a son named Prasushruta. From Prasushruta came Sandhi. From Sandhi came Amarshana. And from Amarshana a son named Mahaswan. From Mahaswan, Vishwabahu took his birth. Verse number 8. Tata prasena jittasma takshako bhavita puna tato brihad balo yastu pitra te samare hataha. From Vishwabahu came a son named Prasenajit. From Prasenajit came Takshaka, and from Takshaka came Brihadbala, who was killed in a fight by your father. So that's Parikshit's father, who was Abhimanyu. Verse number 9. Ete hikshvaku bhupala atita shinvanagatan Brihadbalasya bhavita putro namna Brihadranaha. All these kings in the dynasty of Ikshvaku have passed away. Now please listen as I describe the kings who will be born in the future. From Brihadbala will come Brihadrana. Verse number 10. Urukriya sutastasya vatsa vridho bhavishyati pativyomastato bhanur divako vahini patihi. The son of Brihadrana will be Urukriya, who will have a son named Vatsavriddha. Vatsavriddha will have a son named Prativyoma, and Prativyoma will have a son named Bhanu, from whom Divaka, a great commander of soldiers, will take birth. Verse number 11. Sahadevas tato viro brihadashvota bhanuman pratik Kashvo Bhanumataha Supratiko Tatatsutaha. Thereafter from Divaka will come a son named Sahadeva, and from Sahadeva a great hero named Brihadashva. From Brihadashva will come Bhanuman, and from Bhanuman will come Pratikashva. The son of Pratikashva will be Supratika. Verse 12. Bhavita marudevotha sunakshatro ata pushkaraha tasyantarikshastat putra sutapas tat amitrajit. Thereafter from Supratika will come Marudeva, from Marudeva Sunakshatra, from Sunakshatra Pushkara, and from Pushkara Antariksha. The son of Antariksha will be Sutapa, and his son will be Amitrajit. Verse 13. Brihadrajastutkatasyapi barhis tasmat kritanjayaha dhananjayastasya sutaha sanjayo bhavita tataha. From Amitrajit will come a son named Brihadraja. From Brihadraja will come Barhi, and from Barhi will come Kritanjaya. The son of Kritanjaya will be known as Rananjaya, and from him will come a son named Sanjaya. Verse 14. Tasma Shakyo Tashuddhodo Langalas Tatsutasmritaha Tatah Prasenajit Tasmat Shudrako Bhavita Tataha. From Sanjaya will come Shakya, from Shakya will come Suddhoda, and from Shuddhoda will come Langala. From Langala will come Prasenajit, and from Prasenajit Shudraka. Verse 15. Ranako bhavita tasma suratas tanayas tataha sumitro nama nishtanta ete barhat balanvayaha. From Shudraka will come Ranaka, from Ranaka will come Surata, and from Surata will come Sumitra, ending the dynasty. This is a description of the dynasty of Brihadbala. Verse 16. Ikshvakunam ayam vamsha sumitranto bhavishyati yatastam prapya rajanam samstham prapsyati vai kalau. The last king in the dynasty of Ikshvaku will be Sumitra. After Sumitra, there will be no more sons in the dynasty of the sun god, and thus the dynasty will end. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purpose of the 9th canto, 12th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Dynasty of Kusha, the son of Lord Ramachandra. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचना गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्री कृष्णा चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna, my sincere obeisances to all the devotees of Bhakti Center, and gratitude to be here, grateful to be here and seek permission and blessings of His Grace Adipurush Prabhu, His Grace Arjuna Prabhu, and all the seniors that are that hear this class every day continuously. And after usually apart from these last 2 years, which have been 2020, which has been lockdown, almost this part of the time I've been in Bhakti Center last 3-4 years. So by Gaur-Sharan Prabhu's request, I got the opportunity to at least interact with all the devotees and share some reflections on this chapter. So, and this is the first time ever I completed one chapter in a class. Usually every chapter, every verse, there is a purport, or there is a series of verses after which there is a purport. But this is a unique chapter where in the middle there was a verse purport, and I was expecting that okay, we'll stop there, but then it was told that better take the whole chapter, because the chapter is a series of descendants from Lord Ramchandra, or Lord Ram, and it's a common feeling that many devotees get when we do read these chapters, that there are two mixed feelings when we read chapters like this in the Bhagavatam. One is that I am completing a chapter very quickly, almost within say 10 minutes we completed the whole chapter, so that's an achievement. But then about the learning, we start to wonder that what is the learning in this, because when we do approach Bhagavatam, when one is to take shelter of Krishna and another is to learn lessons for our life from the pages of Bhagavatam. And so in these chapters, sometimes this question comes that what's that lesson, what's that direction towards which Bhagavatam is pointing out? Why did Shukadeva Goswami spend time to list down all the names of these kings that existed in the past. Uh, any thoughts that why so many names have come? Adipurush Prabhu or anyone?
Well, we can see that there are generations. A dynasty is something that endures through time. And there are generations of plants that go down through the hundreds of years, and insects, ants have children, and their children have children. But what is passed down? What is passed down? Here we see the endurance, the extension of the powerful Vedic culture. That the teaching, when we had this one guest here in the Bhakti Center, and Donna Marj was speaking to her, she was a drug addict, and she kept saying to Marj, well, what's the point? Well, okay, well, what's the point? She kept bringing it to that, which is an intelligent question. And you're asking that, The point is that we also have received something from the previous generation, and we're meant to pass it along. It's not something just here and gone, that we have something very valuable, a wonderful lesson, that the holy name is the appearance of the Lord in this age. Let us glorify him. Let us take shelter of the holy name. That the life, we're just listening to Vaisheshekar Prabhu's class yesterday, and he was saying that verse about how an intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery based on the senses, contacting the sense objects, because such pleasures have a beginning and an end. A wise person does not endure, does not pursue that. So that's what we're passing down. We're passing on the understanding that there's a spiritual world beyond this world, that we're not this body, that we're the soul, that we're meant to reawaken our love for Krishna and encourage other people. If we don't give it away, we don't have it. If we don't go on. I'm talking too much. You should speak.
No, Prabhu, the point was on the exact target. We don't say bullseye, or what was on the exact target, that the generations are continuing the tradition in the Vedic time. There was an interesting observation that was made by one devotee when he had gone to his village. And when he went to his village recently, there was a particular shop which he used to visit as a child. And when he used to visit as a child this shop, he used to see that there was a small little boy who was playing in the veranda in the courtyard of the shop and there was a young man who used to do the trading, and there used to be an old man sitting inside reading Ramayana and doing some puja. So this was a sight that he was imprinted upon him in his childhood when this was a sight. And then after 30 years, when he visited back his village, so again went to see the same place to meet the person, and the sight was the same. He again saw that there was a small little boy playing there. There was a young man who was trading, and then there was an old man reading the books. And then he said that didn't time pass? I grew 30 years. It seems that here in this village or here in this place, the time just stopped. So he went to inquire that, hey, how is it that you all didn't grow up? You are the same little boy. And he asked the young man. And when he asked the young man, said, sir, the kid that you used to see 30 years back, it is me. So I was playing then, but now I'm trading now. And the man who used to trade then, he is now reading in the back. And it is my kid who is playing in the veranda in the courtyard. So the generations have changed, but the tradition didn't change. And so no matter who is at the helm of affairs, if they stick to the principles, if they stick to the tradition, then then no matter how many generations pass, it just stay put. So therefore, there is a strong need that we also need to pass on, as Adipurush was saying, the message that we are learning to others. And this art of passing on the message or is a very important service of a leadership of a community, that the next generation is also taking interest, is also understanding the scientifically the reason why these rituals are there. Else the rituals many times lose meaning, and the next generation that comes, that sees all these practices in generation 1.0, then they start to doubt them. As Thomas Kuhn in his book The Structure of Scientific Revolution, he says that almost every invention, every change in the mindset doesn't happen in a generation. He says that the generation dies away and then the next generation adopts that new thought. Usually the old thought sticks to the older generation and that doesn't pass on. And when though that generation passes away, then all those old thoughts also go away. So how do we remain adaptable to the coming different methodologies of, say, outreach, different challenges that are we are facing? At the same time, how do we maintain the tradition that have been passed upon? It shouldn't happen that all the tradition, all the principles that were taught goes away with the previous generation and there is nothing left for the current generation, or we are so strict and so stubborn that the next generation hardly feels any relevancy for the message and then they never take to it. So it's a duty of both the generations, for the older generation, for the seniors, to be able to make the process understandable, and for the newer generation to understand the sacrifice and the efforts that have gone in bringing us what it is in the plate now. We kind of just accept that Prabhupada gave us 108 temples and so many book distribution that has happened. But all this was the effort of so many sacrifices of so many devotees. And if we don't recognize and be grateful for that, then we will not be really eager to take that message on, and we'll try to reinvent the wheel. And there was a nice little story that I heard of one Britisher that had come to India. And when he came to India, he was making his journal about Indian lifestyle and say British lifestyle. And so when he was passing by the bank of a river, he saw a very amusing sight there. And he just couldn't make sense of what these Indians were doing. And he started to write in his journal that Indians don't know how to break rocks because they are trying to break a rock by beating with a cloth. And if you know, any of you know traditional way to wash clothes by this washerman, even in the Bhagavatam it comes that there are usually these rocks on the banks of rivers, and the washermen, they take the clothes and then they beat it against the rock. Same concept in the dryer, in the washer dryer, that the clothes keep falling up from the up to the down in the washer, and in that circular motion, in that repeated banging, the dirt comes out. And that's what even in the Bhagavatam it says vidu noti suhrasata. So the heart, it gets cleansed when it is put into anxious situations of service, in that vibration, that anxiety. Then we have to either choose to accept Krishna, take shelter of Krishna, or we choose to not just deal with our problems and not really go out. And so when this Britisher saw this washerman beating the cloth on the rock, he just couldn't make sense, and he said, they don't know how to break rocks. We in our country know how to break the rocks. Just put a dynamite there. And these Indians are so illiterate, so foolish, that they are trying to change the cloth from one cloth to another cloth. They had beaten the cloth with one cloth and it didn't work. So they took another cloth, another sari, another dhoti, and again trying to beat. And this was his conclusion of the washerman's attempt to wash clothes. as a washerman's attempt to break the rock. And so when the rituals are not understood, maybe it be chanting, whether it be puja, whether it be any aspect of devotional service, when the rituals are not understood, like this Britisher, like this journalist who was thinking that he is over smart than the washerman, we may also not really understand the traditions that have been passed down to us. And when from a far eye, when we make conclusions, this is not right, that is not right, then we miss the point of actually cleansing that cloth, cleansing our heart. So therefore, it's a very important message that the Bhagavatam is giving, that we all have that responsibility to take in from our superiors and also to give out to our juniors, so that the message continues. And I had heard that there are 5 steps usually in passing on the message. If you want to really ensure that the message passes on, either it be skill, either it be service, either it be anything, that the message passes on, then there are 5 steps to it. And that 5 steps is that if someone needs to do a service or is a leader that needs to do service, then the first thing is that the leader himself should be doing that service, should be trained in that knowledge. If you want to pass on deity worship, if you want to pass on managing a temple or any aspect, then you should be, first of all, knowing that aspect, knowing that service, doing that service yourself. And we can't really pass on an information, pass on a knowledge that is not realized by us. There is a small little joke that one guy was trying to copy from his friend, and his friend told that after you write this sentence and put a full stop. And this other friend who was copying, who was trying to forge, he said that what is the spelling of full stop? Because he didn't even knew that what he needs to copy, what he needs to understand. So same way, when there is only knowledge, when there is no realization or understanding of that particular service, sometimes, like I am asked, Prabhuji, can you speak on simple living, or say taking care of the cows or taking care of some aspect? And then if I'm not really doing that service, if I'm not really spent time doing that, then am I really qualified to speak that out, to share that message? Just take some knowledge from from some PowerPoints here and around. Sometimes it happens with, we are suddenly asked to say, Prabhuji, you speak on self-confidence, or you speak on quick reading, or something or other. And the message will not be truly passed on if we are not really practice them. So therefore, the first step is that we fully accept what we want to train others, and if and so that's the first stage, that you do it. So this, and if you have not done it, then sorry, we cannot really give it out to someone else. And then the second stage is that as you are doing that service, doing that chore, you take someone along with you. That okay, it's not that you all see how I do it, but then you never really take someone along with you, whether it be cooking, whether it be preaching, whether it be deity worship, that you tag along a junior with you. And many times it happens that people that are around us are not really up there as we expect. Krishna doesn't always give us the perfect type of devotees around us that we would have suited that for that service. But nevertheless, it is our, even we are not perfect. We are doing either leadership, either cooking, whatever it is, to some role. So therefore, the second stage is that you do it, but as you're doing it, take someone along with you, so that they actually start to see you in action. And the third stage is that, okay, now that it's not that you do it, but now he has been along with you. Now you tell now to that other person that he does it and you are along with him. And this is where many times also our leadership or we lack, that we take someone along, and as long as we are there, we are the show performer and someone is an assistant, and we don't want to switch to the role of assistant and make that person who is our junior the performer, or the one who is doing the service. But when we give that role to that devotee, to that person, that I've been doing all along, like Srila Prabhupada, he was preaching, he was managing, but at one stage he said, now you all manage, you all preach, I will be there in the team, I will be part of the GBC, but you are the ones who take the decisions. So that's the third stage. So the first stage is you do it, that you personally do it. Second is that you do it and you take someone along with you, so that they learn the different nitty-gritties of that particular service, the study, how do you actually perform the service. Third is that you make that person do it and you are along with them. It's not that, okay, you have served with me for 20 years, now you know how to do it, but you stay with that person, you stay with him for a while as he is doing, so that, because when we actually start to take the responsibility, then we'll know all the different troubles that will come up, which we'll not realize when we are just in the assistant role. So that's the third stage, where is of delegation, of training, of passing on the message. The fourth stage is that you no longer go with him or be with him. You say, you just do it now. That you do it. I will not come with you. I will not be there around physically when you are doing the service, when you are doing, when you are preaching, when you are whatever is the skill that to be passed on. That's the fourth stage. But even then, it doesn't end. The fifth stage, which is the most important stage, is that you ensure that that person, as he is doing it, he takes someone along with him to train him. That's the fifth stage, that he does it, and just like you took someone along, tagged someone along, so that he learns that service, that you ensure that that person whom you have trained also becomes a trainer, not just is the teacher or the performer, but he also trains others. Just like Prabhupada's story is there with Yamuna Mataji, that Prabhupada had trained her in cooking. And then once Prabhupada asked her that, Yamuna, are you also training others? And Yamuna Mataji, she said, no, Prabhupada, I am so busy cooking for you that I hardly thought about that. And Prabhupada made it a point that you train others what I have trained you, else you and others will become envious of what you're doing, because you kind of become an exclusivist, that only you can do it, and you're not letting others to come to that level because you're not giving them that space. So when we do these five steps, these are called as 5 steps of ensuring that the legacy passes on. Then we just like in the verses that we have read, that from king to king, at their times they were glorious. That's another lesson, that each person in their times is very glorious. Like right now in social media, somebody may be a top star having so many followers, but if they stop performing, after a while, in 10 years from now, no one recognizes them. So fame or glory, power is for a short time. When we do have that, use that in the proper way, pass it on to others, train others, and then be detached the way these kings were. Just like that old man, that at a proper time he gave that the leading position to his son, and he stepped back into reading and to set the proper example, that was the real goal of life. And all these kings also did that they stepped back and they gave that leadership post to their children, although they could do it, but they wanted to set a higher example of giving all that up once and someone else is qualified, and then they left to forest. So these were some reflections that I had. Yes, yeah, the Purish Prabhu, you want to add
We
something?
just want to add, everything you say is perfectly valid. Like Prabhupada says, you can study with the idea of learning, or you can study with the idea of being prepared to pass it on to somebody else. And the point that we want to add is that is very pleasing to Krishna. That is pleasing to Krishna. Krishna says, no one is more dear to me than one who passes this on, than one who preaches. So we're trying to please Krishna. And if a tree is alive, there's a new branch, there's a new leaf, there's expansion, it's growing. Krishna consciousness is meant to be given, and it is dynamic. And if it's just a plastic tree, it may look very nice, but it's no growth. So we want to be alive and pleasing our spiritual master. Prabhupada said, if you want to thank me, what does he say?
Preserve what I have given and cooperate with each other.
If you want to thank me, then give what I've given to you to someone else. That's the only way to thank me. We would ask him, how can we please you? You must give it. So that's a very, very good point. And that's illustrated by this dynasty passing down through decades and centuries, that it is growing, enduring, and expanding.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for adding those
Glories to Prabhupada.
Right. Any other question, or we can conclude, because I think Radha Shishi Radha Murlidhar Gauranga's darshan will open now.
How wonderful is Krishna? We're here to glorify Krishna. And Krishna and his love has given us something so wonderful, and we can let Krishna's love flow through us to others. That's what Prabhupada said to me one time. I want you to show people that Krishna loves them.
So you made
Hare
the
Krishna.
day. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I'm sorry. Can you just repeat all 5 again, please? Stages.
Okay, we have to go. I have to go. Hare Krishna. Sorry.
The stages you talked about from
The 5
doing the
stages.
task. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The first stage is you do it. The second is you do it and take someone along with you. The third is they do it and you are along with them. Fourth is that they do it, you are not with them. Fifth is they do it and they take someone along with them. So there are 5
Great.
stages.
Thank you so much.
It's very
This is a great
logical, but then
class.
we many times forget this.
Yes, exactly. Thank you so much for this class. It was great.
So stop recording now, and so again, want to thank all the devotees for giving me this opportunity to share some reflections on this, on Srimad Bhagavatam, the Canto 9, Chapter 12, the dynasty of Kusha, the son of Lord Ramchandra. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.